I'm gonna kill myself, Mama.
Very funny, very funny.
I am.
You're not. Don't even say such a thing, Jessie.
How would you know if I didn't say it? Want it to be a surprise? You're lying in your bed, or maybe just brushing your teeth. You hear a noise down the hall.
Kill yourself.
Shoot myself. In a couple of hours.
Must be time for your medicine.
I took it already.
And what's the matter with you?
Not a thing. I feel fine.
You feel fine. You're just going to kill yourself.
Waited until I felt good enough, in fact.
Don't make jokes, Jessie. I'm too old for jokes.
It's not a joke, Mama.
Everything is everything until it's not, and then it's not. Love is love, and hate is hate, and everybody is everybody. People are what they are until they're not. Until we convince ourselves that we've figured them all out. Until we convince ourselves that we've seen through to their bullshit. And then they're boring. And then we're bored. And then we feel empty and used. And depressed.
What does Dawson do that bothers you?
He just calls me Jess, like he knows who he's talking to. And he's always wondering what I do all day. I mean, I wonder that myself, but it's my day, so it's mine to wonder about, not his.
And it really doesn't take that much for us to be bored. Think about love, for instance. When it's new, when it's fresh, it's exciting. We don't know as much about our partners as we want to know, so the adventure of it is what more or less keeps the relationship alive, at least in its most initial of days. After which we understand one another a fair bit, after which we become commonplace to one another, and then boredom sets in. And then we can no longer look to our romantic partners for a sense of drive, a sense of ambition, right?
It's just a rag week, Mama. I'm not sick.
Epilepsy is sick,
It
Jessie.
won't kill me. If it would, I wouldn't have to.
You don't have to.
No, I don't. That's what I like about it.
Well, I won't let you.
It's not up to you. I want to hang a big sign around my neck like Daddy's on the barn. Gone fish.
You don't like it here.
Exactly.
And this is especially important if only because our traditions and our culture is modern and vernacular, like kind of orient us toward this particular frame of mind where we imagine that love is the true key and answer to life, if ever there was one, where we think that once we find the person we were meant to be with, we will then be excited and feel a sense of drive and a sense of motivation and purpose in the lives that we live. But
Mama, I'm just not having a very good time. I don't have any reason to think it's going to get anything but worse. I'm tired, I'm hurt, I'm sad, I feel used.
But love is not immune to boredom, not in the slightest. Boredom is as much a condition for life as anything else. One could very easily make an evolutionary argument for boredom, in fact. Only an organism that has mastered its environment to such an extent that it no longer feels as inspired to react to every other stimulus around it, will survive, will procreate.
Because even if I ride 50 more years and get off then, it's still the same place when I step down to it. Whenever I feel like it, I can get off. Whenever I've had enough, it's my stop. I've had enough.
In Marsha Norman's play Night Mother, the character of Jessie announces to her mother one morning that she's gonna kill herself. Now, I do not mean to put forward what I would consider an absolute read of the reasons for which this character wanted to end her own life, but for my money, a lot of what Jessie was saying to her mother in the way of providing an explanation for what it is she was going to do sounded to me like testimonies of boredom. Testimonies of just being fed up with it all, being fed up with the bullshit, just being over her epilepsy, being over her divorce, being over her truant son, being over the news, everything and anything that did not seem to inspire the will to live within her anymore.
You're acting like some little brat, Jessie. You're mad and everybody's boring, and you don't have anything to do, and you don't like me, and you don't like going out, and you don't like staying in, and you never talk on the phone, and you don't watch TV, and you're miserable, and it's your own sweet fault.
And it's time I did something about it.
Killing yourself.
At best, boredom can be a stimulus to push us toward new frontiers that we had not previously considered, but at worst, it can be that which indefinitely convinces our souls within us that life itself is not worth living, if only because it's gonna be the same old shit.
And I can't do anything either about my life to change it and make it better. make me feel better about it, like it better, make it work, but I can't stop it. Shut it down. Turn it off like the radio and there's nothing on I want to listen to.
Once we resign ourselves to the understanding that we are bored with life as we know it, then we really have no other recourse but to be depressed.
Brave and try some more. You don't have to give up.
I'm not giving up. This is the other thing I'm trying. And I know there's some other things that might work, but might work's not good enough anymore. I need something that will work. This will work. This is how I have my say. This is how I say what I thought about it all, and I say no.
Because the argument goes something like this, right? If all of this is bullshit and if all there is bullshit, then why don't I just as well spend my time doing anything and everything? You know, everything is permissible. If only because none of it is worth it. All of it is fated to end in a very predictable and boring way. The worst manifestation of boredom amongst the human population has got to be depression. And depression as a condition occurs more or less on a spectrum, right? You have high functioning depressives who are able to more or less put their shit together, show up to work, show up to the bar, and yet in their own private spaces kind of retreat within themselves into those darkest corners where life in and of itself just seems utterly, acutely boring. You know, and senseless and meaningless and tasteless and vapid and trite. And on quite the extreme end of the spectrum, you have depressives who are more or less unable to function in a readily recognizable human way, not able to clean up after themselves, not able to feed themselves, not inspired enough to want or to need or to feel even at times. And there's almost nothing quite as heartbreaking as to have somebody take their own lives as a function of that state of mind. Have somebody feel as though there is no answer that could possibly convince them otherwise, could possibly convince them to keep living. There is no point to it, there is no end to it, there is nothing but the boredom, nothing but the bullshit, and that all that life is for them is over. I think boredom is significantly more lethal to our mental health, certainly, than as a culture we are privy to understand. I feel like a fundamental step toward addressing the problem of mental health and the pandemic, because it is indeed a pandemic, of depression amongst the human population has got to involve a problematization of the spiritless nature of the lives that we live right now. You know, of the lack of motivation, the lack of inspiration, the lack of genuine reason to keep living, you know, over and above the trinkets and the gadgets and the widgets that are guaranteed to us by the capitalist imperium, over and above the progressively tasteless and ineffective drugs that we keep pumping into our system. There has to be a deeper answer. There has to be a better reason to stay alive. For my money's worth, anybody and everybody looking to engage honestly with the subject of depression has got to contend with the fact that a lot of humanity is just, to the soul, very boring.